I think we'll get going, and as we've noticed every other time, people join as we start the session. So this is our final speaker of today, so thank you very much, Gareth, for doing this. I'm not going to spoil the story or anything like that, but I think it's a really interesting and really fun story, so I'm certain you'll enjoy this. So, Gareth, over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Hello, everybody. So I'm following the professional speaker. A couple of really good tips there from Audrey. Authenticity. This is going to be very authentic. I speak a lot about business planning and cash flow forecasting. What I'm speaking about today is quite exposing. It's going to be authentic. You also said it was okay to use notes. That's good. So, going the distance. What do I mean by the distance? There's a delay, don't panic.
Technical issues. So, triathlon is swim, bike and run. 19 kilometre swim, 900 kilometre bike ride. I've been talking about this for 3 years and I still can't say that without laughing. It's utterly ridiculous. This was the triathlon that I was signed up to do. I'm going to talk about the journey that took me through that, what I learned, how it helped me in my business, how it helped me in my life, really. This is my sort of usual opening slide when I give a presentation. And I usually go through my CV. I'm Gareth Allen, I'm a business coach, I'm a commercial finance broker, I work for Barclays Bank. I used to work for Carphone Warehouse, that was some mobile phones. But what I don't usually talk about is my alter ego as a triathlon coach and a triathlete. And I always sort of kept them separate. I can't really justify why, but it just always felt like a separate part of my life. When this opportunity came along, Tracy asked me if I would talk about this. And I said yes. That's what you do, you say yes. So, instead of this slide, hello, I'm Gareth Allen. I'm a triathlete, triathlon coach. Just to give you my triathlon CV. So I started in my 20s, I ate too much, drank too much, and 20 years ago I ran the London Marathon. Lost a load of weight, did it for charity, and that was kind of the start of an adventure. After that, what comes next? I'll try a triathlon. In 2012, I got into it a bit more seriously. I joined a club, and I eventually signed up to do an Ironman Triathlon. If you've heard of Ironman Triathlon, that's what they call a long-distance triathlon. It takes all day. And I did Ironman Barcelona. And the reason I did Ironman Barcelona and not Ironman Bolton is because I thought, I am never going to do this again. I'm going to do it once, so I'm going to go to Spain and do it. How wrong I was. So after I'd done the Ironman, that's when I started to go a little bit crazy. And I started to look for longer distances, and I'll tell you why. Deep breath. I used to, when I worked for Barclays Bank, I used to cycle in. I used to commute, it was about 8 miles each way. And when I got into the bank, all the ladies who worked behind the counter were all a bit older than me. They'd all say, look at Gareth, look at his legs, isn't he fit? Look at that young man. I liked that. That was really good for my ego. And then I joined the triathlon club, and cycling 8 miles to work wasn't good enough anymore. You have to raise your game to get attention if you've got an ego like mine. I was never going to be the fastest. There are always people who are faster than me. So what was my strength? My strength was my resilience and my perseverance. And so I decided I was going to go longer. That would be my superpower. I did a double Ironman. That was the next thing I did. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this was to test my limits. The double Ironman race that I did tested my limits to breaking point. I got a knee injury. I had to stop after about 20 miles of the run, which was frustrating, but it was okay. The idea is that you're testing your limits. Sometimes you go further, and that's all right. During lockdown, everyone went a little bit crazy. So what had been a bit of an escape and a bit of a hobby became a little bit more important to me. It's probably fair to say I put a lot of emotional energy into this, perhaps more than is entirely healthy. But all those stresses that we all had in 2020 were kind of loosened and lessened by all this training that I did. So I'm somebody who likes a goal. I like to have a big goal to work on.
And so I set myself this goal of the brutal Quin, which is triathlon I am going to tell you about. And here is how I am going to tell you about it. So planning and preparation, what we did beforehand, then I'm going to talk you through it. Taking a plunge and swim, steady spinning the bike, and finally the run to the line. I'm going to tell some stories, and I'm going to sort of crowbar in from time to time and say, isn't this like when we're running business? What can we learn from this? So it is business relevant, I promise. However, this is a story about me doing triathlon, okay? I'm not trying to dress it up. So, preparation. So, I had 18 months of preparation and training for this. So there's lots of physical things I had to do, so just to give you some examples here, top left, we went up to Ullswater in the Lake District, got in the water at one end and swam to the other end, that was 13 kilometres, that was a lovely day out in the sun. Next one, I got the train during lockdown to Manchester and ran home, it was a long way. This one here, can't quite see it, that's the Gretna Hotel. Cycled to Scotland, which was great fun. I went from my house through Leeds, past Ilkley, over the Yorkshire Dales, Penrith, got to the border, and as I entered Scotland, I got a puncture. Almost like the country was rejecting me. So that's me repairing my tie. Oh, this one here, that's Barnsley Town Hall at 3 AM. So one of the things about this event is you got to cycle through the night, so I practiced that. Left my house at midnight, cycled to Sheffield and back. All good. As well as the physical training, there's a lot of psychological training. The course for the Quin is very repetitive. So it's lots of small laps, and that's really quite difficult to get your head around. And so, for example, I found a 1 mile loop around my house on the estate where I live, and I ran that 40 times on Sunday. That was a fun day. All good for mental fortitude. Having a plan. So, depending on whether you are a fan of 19th century war or 20th century boxing, these basically mean the same thing. You can have a plan, but you are not going to be able to follow it. Life gets in the way, you get smacked in the mouth, either literally or figuratively. But that does not negate the benefit of a plan. It's always better to have a plan and to adapt than to just wing it. So I had a plan, I had this 18-month training plan, and the idea, broadly speaking, was I was going to do lots of running during the winter leading up to the race, and then as the weather got a bit better, I would do more cycling. This worked out quite well because I got a hip injury. So during the spring, about sort of 3 months away from the race, I had a hip problem, it was just a niggle, and I couldn't quite shake it. I couldn't run at all. I couldn't do the miles I needed to do. It was so frustrating. I mean, it was so frustrating. I turned to acupuncture. In fact, my therapist tells me this is dry needling, not acupuncture. So my point here is about having a plan and not being able to necessarily stick to it. I was able to adapt the plan. So I did more cycling. I got on in the gym. There's elliptical training. No, okay. I went to the gym at Thorns Park in Wakefield and I had my iPad set up, I had some food and some drink, and I went for 5 hours on this damn elliptical trainer, getting dirty looks from the other gym users. Where are the machines? But I was going to need to run for 3 days, and when the race started, I didn't run for more than an hour, so I wasn't really sure. I don't expect to be able to read that. That was the spreadsheet of power. This was the plan for the week. So the race starts on Sunday night, and I was hoping, in an ideal world, to finish on Friday night. 5 days. But I knew that probably wasn't going to happen. I had the weekend, Saturday and Sunday afterwards, to blend into. I had a plan, but I wasn't crazy enough to think this plan would be perfect. Especially because I wasn't entirely sure I would be able to do the run. My idea was I would do the swim, I would do the bike, and then we would see how it went from there. What was the goal for me? It was to finish. So here's the first crowbar. It's like business. So what is your goal? What's your long-term goal? Do you want to retire at 55? Do you want to sell your business for X amount of money? It's always good to have these long-term objectives. and then think, right, well, what do I need to do now to start working towards it? The analogy I always use is sat nav. So you put the postcode in where you're going, but then what's the route? Another aspect of planning and preparation, this is my crew, these are the people who are supporting me, the importance of having great people around you. Building a strong team, and that might be, so I work for myself, I'm self-employed, I don't have a partner, I don't have employees, but I do surround myself with the right people. The people I work with, my strategic partners, my suppliers. This is crucial to me. And just as in business, as in this race, it's really important to have the right people. All these people have different skills. Anybody here a fan of the West Wing? We just had a bar on. You must be a fan of the West Wing. So West Wing is basically American politics fantasy. And there's a great scene in there where the president is talking about his chief of staff. And he says, how do you pick your ideal chief of staff? Have you got a best friend? Do you trust him? Yes. Is he smarter than you? Yes. That's your chief of staff. So this is Mark, he's my chief of staff. The another triathlon coach that I know, very good guy, but ultimately, I trust him. So when I'm absolutely exhausted and I don't know what I'm doing, he tells me to do something, I'll do it. So most importantly, in terms of preparation, is the why. Why am I doing this? There are going to be times in this week in your life when things are crap, and you're not happy, and you're demotivated, and you think, why the hell am I doing this? Well, have an answer to that question. Come up with the answer now when things are good, when things are positive. So my why, talk about ego, I want to do something that nobody else can, I want to kind of be special. I want to test my limits. I want to prove to myself that I've got this resilience. I'll give you a little tangent here, I promise I'm not going to mope about this, but during the preparation of this race, my marriage, I broke up with my wife, which was a very difficult time, and I'm not going to dwell on that too long. But the point is that this has now become redemption. This was really important to me to prove that I could do this. And that was my motivation, to be able to do something on my own and to be able to be resilient. So, let's start, shall we? I'm in the water. So, as I said before, this is 760 lengths of a swimming pool. My crew were all as excited as I was, as you can see. They do say with a triathlon more generally, you can't win a triathlon in the water, you can't lose it. In other words, pace yourself. Don't try and go too fast too soon, otherwise you'll pay for it later. So the challenge for me here was fueling, to keep eating. I had another week of exercise, and I was going to be in this water for at least 8 hours. I needed to make sure that I was keeping to fuel. So I found this really difficult. So my plan was this. I would swim 1,000 meters, 40 lengths, that's about 20 minutes, and then I would have a little break. I would have a drink, maybe eat something small, and then carry on. And then every three lots of that, roughly an hour, I got out of water, sit down, eat something a bit more substantial. I had a shower a couple of times. I was worried about all this chlorine for 7 hours. So get out and about and actually, get out of the water. At the end, but by 4 or 5 hours in, I was so tired that I was getting out of the water and having a little power nap. So, there's nothing wrong with the power nap, right? Metaphorically and literally, isn't that a bit like business? So, there will be times when you're absolutely exhausted, when you're just fed up, or you're just pulling your hair out. Take a break. It might literally be going out a nap if you're falling asleep at the desk. But even if it's just walk around the block, come back stronger in 5 minutes. I had to sleep, I'll tell you a story here. I was sleeping, that's literally the pool's just to the left there, so just by the side of the pool. My subconscious was really messing with me now. My stomach was aching, and I had that acid reflux from the food I was trying to eat. And I had to still sleep, and I dreamt I was in the basement of a house in a war zone. There were bombs going off outside. And as I gradually came around and woke up, I realised that what I was actually hearing were the people in the pool swimming. I don't know what my conclusion is there other than my subconscious.
here. I had to do 760 lengths. There's absolutely no way I could count that. So we had someone at the end of the length ticking things off. They did shifts. And there was a real good point here. How do you measure your success? How do you know how you're doing? If you set yourself a goal for this month, if it's number of sales or if it's number of calls, number of meetings, whatever it is, when you get to the end of the month, how easy is it for you to say, how many lengths did I swim? If you have to go searching for that information, then it's probably not a great target. Make it easy for yourself. Right. Let's see if this video works. See that? That's about as happy as I was. 9 hours I was in that bloody water. I was absolutely sick of it. So it was 4 in the morning, and we decided we weren't going to try and do any cycling. We'd wait till the morning, so I had a good sleep. Again, the importance of recovery. You know, if you're working 90-hour weeks constantly, you'll never get any rest. It's not going to work out long term. So make sure that you are recovering properly. So move from there onto the bike. So the bike, 900 kilometers. The plan was to try and do 300 kilometers a day. For 3 days I would be on that damn bike. So the loop, the lap, was a 13-kilometer lap, which I would do 70 times. And this is the mindset, just staying in the loop. This lap, the loop is everything. There is nothing beyond the loop. Just this lap and then the next lap. I talked earlier about looking at the horizon, thinking about a long-term goal. Sometimes, thinking about a long-term goal can really do your head in. So if you ever go to support an event like this, or if you're at the London Marathon supporting people, we give you a tip as an athlete, don't ask them how far they've got to go, because they really don't want to think about it. Just this lap and another one, and then we'll worry about the rest. My point stands about the horizon, but it's about taking time, the appropriate time to look at where you're going and what's next. So, this loop, by the end of the first day, I knew this loop. I could have done it with my eyes shut. Come into this village in Melbourne, left turn, so up your shoulder, go wide, so in the corner, a little pothole there, and then there's a bit rough road from here. Oh, and then a dead rabbit appeared. So at some point between the last lap and this lap, an unfortunate rabbit had been eaten. Well, the next time I came around, the rabbit was being pecked at by a couple of birds. They fluttered away when I arrived. I got to tell you that by the time I finished cycling, that rabbit had gone. I managed to cycle for long enough to observe the entire life and death of a rabbit. Before I move on to the next slide, I feel like I need to explain fire marshal. I had got, we had to wear a high vis, health and safety, and I'd got this high vis made with all my logos on it, and it had lights down the back, so you could see me. Really sexy high vis. And it was too hot. So this is one of the hottest days of the year, and I said, just find me something this is what they found me. That's why that's fire marshal. So day one. You might remember I said I had trouble eating during the swim, so day one the priority was to get as much food as possible. Got to drink, it was a really hot day. So I would stop every lap, just have a quick 2-minute chat to my crew, and then every 8 laps I got off and had a meal, had a shower, whatever. Actually walked away and did something different. Swam and swim. I said it was hot. This was the day last year. It was the hottest day of the year when the country ground to a halt. That was the Monday. And so, in order to protect us from ourselves, the organisers of the race, they said that we weren't allowed to cycle between 12 and 3. They closed the course for 3 hours, which was good because we probably wouldn't have done that without them making it. I got to have a rest at some point, so that is when I have a rest. What I'll do is I'll make sure that at 12 o'clock I can have a sleep, I have some food. So I went and lay down in my tent. 75 degrees, you can't lay in a tent, it's ridiculous. So, Mark, who knows everything, my chief of staff, took Starbucks, air conditioned, got me a milkshake, and I slept for 2.5 hours in Starbucks. I don't think they were very happy.
But they need to learn how to make a cup of tea, don't they? Okay, so it got dark. As time progressed, things were getting really hard. My shoulders were sore. Anyone who's ridden a bike for any distance, you all know that sort of familiar saddle sore feeling when you've walked on this bike too long. Yeah, I had that too. I was tired and emotional, which is not a euphemism for drunk. I was literally tired and emotional. But the hardest thing, the most difficult thing about this was that time alone with your thoughts and the negative thinking creeping in. And this is what I meant earlier about having that why and why am I doing this? And one tactic that I will share, which I think is fairly universal, is when you get negative thinking, you can't just not think about these things. So if I say, please think about a pink elephant. Right. If I say to you, please stop thinking about that pink elephant, you can't. You've got a pink elephant in your head. Right, now think about a bright green hippopotamus. The pink elephant is gone. So you can't just think, oh God, I'm having a really bad week, I haven't made any sales this week, my business is going to fail. You can't just think to yourself, I better stop thinking about that. What you need to do is think, right, well, what's the positive? Okay, I'm going to go to this networking thing, I'm going to make sure that I hand out my business cards, I'm going to make some calls, I'm going to do something different to worrying about the worst case scenario. Have some best case scenarios to be able to shove that pink elephant out of your head. So I cycled into the night. There's no street lights out there, it's out by Allerthorpe Country Park. So you have a big headlight on your bike. I said before, I could do that anyway, but you know, just in case. And it's quite a hypnotic thing. It's got like sensory deprivation. You've got this white circle that you're chasing on the tarmac and nothing else. This is when you get tired and you start to hallucinate. I don't want to say hallucinate, I don't mean like I've taken acid and I'm imaginary and I feel spider. I don't mean like that. It tends to be just things that you think, did I just see that? I can't do it. There's a little stick. What's that saying? No, there's a stick. But your brain just starts playing little tricks. So the one I'd like to tell you about was actually an aural hallucination. So I'm cycling along a little hedgerow alongside, and something scurried away. I must have frightened it or something. It's still scurrying next to me. Is this squirrel racing me? After about 20 seconds, I'm going, this can't be a squirrel. Like in my head, I'm thinking, this is not right. You know that this is not right. And it took me about 40 or 50 seconds before I'm looking over my shoulder, and I realised that my helmet strap was rubbing against my fire marshal high vis, making a little scratchy noise. No squirrel! So I am going to crowbar something in here. You ready for this? When you're tired, you misinterpret things. It's really easy to take something that someone says, misinterpret it, play it over and over in your head, read it wrong, especially when you're tired. This tiredness comes in waves. Have you ever had that experience where you're watching the telly and there's like 5 minutes of this film left, you just got to watch this 5 minutes and you can't keep my eyes open. It kind of hits you like that. There are things you can do. Can of Red Bull, like a hit of adrenaline, that gets you through another couple of laps. The redemptive power of a power nap. I am a massive advocate of a power nap. What was nice about this, I was cycling basically for 4 days. Remember the plan was 3 days, but it took longer than that because of the closure. And lots of people visited. As I say, we're only Allerthorpe, it's not too far from here, so I had lots of friends who came to visit, and it was always nice as I was coming back in towards the crew station. It was nice to actually see people, not just be alone with my thoughts for a little while. It's what I said about surrounding yourself with good people. I'm a big networker, I like going to network events, and there's obviously a business purpose to that. But actually, there's a social purpose to it as well. Do we get to actually enjoy ourselves? So I finished the bike, almost a day behind schedule. It was 8 PM on the Thursday, but that's not too late to get some miles in. So I thought, right, let's have a little run. The run loop, rather like the bike loop, small loop, just over a mile, 1.7 kilometres. It's through Allerthorpe country park, so you go through the caravans, past the visitor centre, around the lake, the woods, back through the campsite, all that. Repeat. 120 miles. So I started on Thursday at 8 o'clock, and I felt great. I was in a flow state. I was in the zone. And I had people running with me, people would join me for a lap, which was really lovely, people to talk to, and morale was good. I did a couple of laps with my soon-to-be ex-wife, which was really wonderful, genuinely wonderful. We had a great chat. She got to me back there and relax. It was lovely. My son came and joined me for a couple of laps. It was lovely, really, really the highlight of the week. I ran just over 50 kilometres in 5 hours, which is faster than I've ever run that distance. And that was too much. I was screwed the next day, I did too much. So I clocked off at about 2 a.m, went to bed. But you know, you've got to pace yourself, haven't you? You've got to pace yourself. I really paid for it the next day. So you know, that's a little bit like. Right. Next day, Friday. So what I did now was a run-walk strategy. I run one lap, walk another. And really, I probably should have done that from the start. This is your classic Instagram versus reality. Always smile for the camera. Whenever you see a camera, smile. It's better than the alternative. So now, I was in quite a lot of pain. But oddly enough, the pain was all surface. I had blisters. My feet killed me. How to put this? I had chafing. I'm not going to go into detail. But it was painful. However, the good news is, my hip was alright. I've been running a long time, a long way, and my hip was fine. So that was really positive. There was a guy who, during this race, they were also doing a 300-mile run race. So rather than triathlon, guys who were just running around the same loop. There was one guy, Nottingham Forest, I called him. I don't know what his real name is, but he was wearing a Nottingham Forest top. And his tactics for getting through this were to sing. He was a bit faster than me, so every 6 or 7 laps he would catch me up and I would hear him coming. And he'd go, it was great, it was really good, I enjoyed doing it. It was a real great dive. Oh, he's got another video. So, let me set this up. This is on Saturday. Only pain now. This is Saturday evening. Let me play this video.
Just a marathon to go, maybe. Less than a marathon. Don't pick through those lights. Yeah? Bit dancer?
Yeah. But what I would like to draw your attention to is what I was saying there. If you couldn't hear, what I was saying was, it'll come back. And I've done this a couple of times now where I've stopped food or sleep or something and set off again. Everything hurts. You can see how much everything hurt there. Just get around that first lap. Okay, you're walking a bit more freely. Get around the second lap, then you start running again. Come back. Isn't that a bit like this? There are times when it's really, really hard, it's painful, it's difficult, and you think, why the hell am I doing this? Just keep moving forward, it'll come back. So, at that point, I had 20 miles to go, 20 laps to go. And the plan was, I'll do 10 tonight, I'll do 10 in the morning, Sunday morning, 10, I can knock those off, no problem. So I was mostly walking now. I managed to get through those 10 laps. It was nearly 2 a.m. by the time I'd done the 10th, and it started raining. My crew were a bit grumpy. They were really tired as well. So I got to the end of that 10th lap. High fives all around. My friend Zoe, whose voice you could hear there, she said, do another one, soft lad. I looked at her. She regretted saying that so much. So I did another one, and she sat in the rain and waited for me. But what that did mean is, I now only had 9 laps to go. So, Sunday morning. Now, I promise you the next slide is not a picture of my chafing, alright? Don't worry, don't panic. So yeah, the blisters were bad. Feet were sore, but I only had 9 laps to go. It was painful, but it was just a countdown. I could just knock those off and just walk around those. And it was really lovely because I knew I was going to do it. I knew that this was going to work out. And it gave me time to reflect on things, gave me time to reflect on the shared experience, the people I'd shared this with, both my crew and other friends, the other athletes, not in the forest, etc. But also, this was a real good time for me to reflect. I told you about the why. Why am I doing this? To prove that I've got resilience, to enable me to reflect on that, the changes that were happening in my life, my ability to persist. So, well, my point here is, you're going to have successes. Don't take them for granted. Use those successes to reflect on what you've done well and to pat yourself on the back. The last lap, they do a really lovely thing at this event. So you've done 119 laps around this godforsaken lake. And then the last lap, you do in the opposite direction, which is really confusing. But it's lovely because it means you get to see the other people that you've sort of shared this course with, and you kind of get to know, oh, your last lap, congratulations, oh my God. And then you carry on, and then you see them again, which is a bit awkward, but lovely, really nice way to be able to finish things off. So this is me crossing the line. This is the celebration video. What I would like you to watch is, firstly, how emotional I am. I have a complete breakdown right now. But also my crew, who are really happy. I would like you to watch their change of mood when they see how emotional I am. Hang on, I will play it. How do this? There. No. Mike. Okay, this is like the punchline of the whole thing.
Right.
I just need to play without. Don't be afraid of judgment. This is authentic, Audrey. I guess I'm talking about celebrating a success, but emotion is good. Emotion is healthy. We're not machines. We're not robots. Emotion is good. So, it took me a week, but it took me 18 months really, but it was done. And so, now I got time to reflect. This is very important, reflecting on what you've achieved. Reflecting on your successes, what can you learn for next time, what can you do differently, what can you repeat, what can you celebrate. The point of this is to celebrate success. So for me, you know, my mind is strong, I'm not infallible, I'm resilient. I know that my body can endure a lot, which is good for members for the future. Perhaps most importantly, I've got really wonderful people around me who figuratively and literally can nourish me and sustain me. Okay, so here's the final slide where I'm going to really go wild on the business bit. These are the themes. So first of all, planning and preparation. Yeah, you can wing it, and you'll get you so far, but have a plan. Know what you expect to happen. Be prepared for things to go wrong, and that plan might not work out. But having a plan A and being able to adapt it is always going to be better than winging it. Goals and milestones. So this idea of long and short term, where do you focus? Do you focus on the horizon? Do you focus on the next step? The answer is both, whenever it's appropriate. If you're just looking at where your next step is, oh my God, how do I get my next paycheck? Oh my goodness, how am I going to close this sale? Then who knows where you're going to end up? Occasionally you've got to look up and check where you're going. People are everything. People are everything. So no as an island, you need other people. Even if you run your own business like I do, you've got to be able to collaborate with other people. You know, our suppliers, we can't do this on our own. Strategy, pacing yourself, thinking about the finish line. Sometimes you just think about that, but sometimes you've got to think about the long distance event. Resilience and recovery. This is your power nap. And I'm talking power naps as a metaphor, but also sometimes there are not two different speeds. We sometimes fall into this idea that we are either going or we stop. What's wrong with pause? Sometimes we just need to pause, gather ourselves, and go again. Mindset, having that happy place, why are you doing this? I would really recommend that you think about this when you are in a good place, when things are going well. What's the purpose of it? Why did I leave that job to do this? What am I trying to achieve for myself here? And if you're a visual person, write that down and stick it on the wall, because there will be times next week, next year, where you're feeling rubbish about the whole endeavour, thinking, I might as well just don't get the job. No, look, that's why I'm doing this. And then probably the most literal link, health and well-being. So, healthy body, healthy mind, this is the literal connection. I'm not suggesting you're going to do something stupid like this, but activity is good. Go for a walk, do a park run on Saturday morning, go for a swim, play badminton, whatever, doesn't matter. Get in the sweat, be active, it's always going to help. But the biggest lesson that I learned, and the summary of the entire event, was that second video. Doesn't matter how hard things get, just keep grinding forward and come back. Thank you. Any questions? I understand that the questions may be about the stupid thing that I did, or about business. Whatever you want. Anyone?
Would you do it again?
Is this one more? That is a really good question. And I said to myself, I'll wait and see. I'll see if the urge takes me. And it hasn't yet. But I think also that it was a fairly obsessive thing. And what I'm trying to do now is to live my life in a normal, less obsessive way. So I'm still doing triathlon, I'm still training more than most people, but I'm trying to do it like a normal human being.
Can I just start by saying actually that Gareth and I used to work in the same Barclays branch, and I can confirm if you were behind the counter when you arrived, that things were the talk of the town. So I am very much, I struggle I think to be in the here and now. So when you talked about not always looking ahead, like that really resonated with me. Have you got any tips as to how you can come back a little bit from that, like looking in the future? And sometimes I feel like I miss what's currently happening around me.
So you're looking at the horizon too?
Yeah.
Because that's interesting, Gemma, because a lot of people feel the way around, you get preoccupied with what you're doing today without thinking about it. But I guess it's a little bit of like literally diarise, on a Monday morning or whatever. Right, what is my action plan for this week? Here's where I'm heading when I'm 55, where I want to be. So by the end of this year, I need to have done whatever. What does that mean this week? But I think with all of these things, when I used to have a job, I had good managers who would sit me down and go through an action plan every month. I had bad managers who just opened the door and shouted at me. But now I don't have either. I've got to do it for myself. So just setting that regular meeting with yourself. Anyone else?
First of all, congratulations, because the mental resilience you had to go through for that, I think what it shows is what we're truly capable of, whether you're super physical specimen that's been training all his life, I think David Goggins says it, that when you think you're done, you're only 6% done. But in terms of business, just switching it, when you put yourself through that, I'm assuming that was the first time you pushed the limits physiologically for yourself, correct?
Yeah, I've done that one before where my knee had given out.
Yeah.
And I had to stop, there was no two ways about it. but that was my body stopping me. So the mind hadn't quite got to the breaking point.
So the question then is that you've pushed yourself beyond the boundaries, mentally, emotionally, physically. But the emotional component there, we are so powerful. When you apply that to the business world, we try something, it's like, I don't know, the people you employ, when staff say, I've emailed, okay, great, what's the response? They haven't responded yet. Okay, what was the result? Just to get an answer, to get an outcome. So we're not talking a 100-mile run or an email, but we're talking about getting targets done in business, and how is that correlated to you personally growing your businesses, and how have you then instilled that into your workforce?
Well, I haven't got a workforce, it's just me. So, but I can certainly answer that first part. I've got a long-term goal, and like I said to John, I've broken that down. And I think what I've taken from this is just keep pushing, in the sense that sometimes you're bad week, the email doesn't get answered, or maybe sales calls, thought you were going to close the sale, they change their mind, all of these things that you get knocked back. Just persist. And I don't necessarily mean with that one customer, I keep banging on them until they're not doing that. But we can sometimes adapt our plans. Okay, that didn't quite work, I need to adapt my plan. But persist, because ultimately, you're moving in the right direction, just keep pushing away at it. And it can be really difficult, it can be really frustrating and really painful. But if you're confident that you're the right thing, just persist.
I'm curious to know, you talked about the guy that was singing. When you got in your dark, uncomfortable place, where did you go for your own motivation?
You have to do something, actually. I'm not going to sing all the time. Do you remember LaRue's Bulletproof? That's it. I'm bulletproof. That's not the answer to the question. The answer is that it was that pushing out that worst case scenario with the best case scenario. So I was thinking about the new life that I was planning. I was in the process of buying a house, which is a bloody nightmare, I know. But rather than thinking about all the things that could go wrong, it was like, right, here's what I'm going to do with the house. I'm going to have my office in that room, I'm going to have my son's room, and literally, I was doing interior design. That's what I was doing, Chris. But whatever your equivalent is, I was thinking about the future I wanted. And you can translate that to a business side, I guess.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you very much. That was, I was more nervous about today than I have been any sort of public speaking for ages, because that felt quite exposing. You've been lovely, thank you so much.
I'm sure everyone agrees. Fantastic achievement, firstly, as you said, and well done, really inspiring story. So thank you very much, Gareth. Thank you, everyone. This is kind of the final speaker session of the day. We've still got an hour-ish or so left to do there with the guys. So please, stay on as long as you need to. Continue your conversations, have your chats, use the room as you need to do. I just want to say thank you to all the speakers, some are still here, and thank you to everyone who's taken part. So, thank you.
Yeah. More or less.